we'll start our I guess our list of games. We got the four first rounds of the playoff, and we'll start with Army Navy, or Navy Army is a better way to put it, I suspect. That's coming up this Saturday, the 14th of December. We have Navy a 6.5 point underdog. Total is 38 on this one. We'll start with you at Big East Bend. What are you thinking?
Jeff, I have a couple questions for you that will help
Yes.
form my judgment. Okay, so you
Okay.
just have to answer Army or Navy.
Yep.
Okay. Who's tougher?
Navy.
Okay.
Keep them coming.
Who's smarter?
Navy.
Okay. A terrorist cell has set up camp at the Eurasian Pole of Inaccessibility, located in northwest China near the border of Kazakhstan in the Dzungarian Basin. It's roughly
Sorry, what was that
2,600.
basin? Can you say it again?
The
Yeah.
Dzungarian Basin.
Okay, because that was important. I just needed to know that.
It's roughly 2,645 kilometers from the nearest coastline and the farthest point from water on Earth. Who are you sending?
The Marines.
All
What else do you need to know, man?
right. All right. Um, yeah. So this over under of 38, that has to be the highest it's been in some time. Am
Yeah.
I correct on that?
Yeah. You are correct on that one. And some interesting facts about the over-under for Army. Historically, up until 2022, which Army did end up winning 2017, the under had hit 17 years in a row, if my math is correct on my research. It is at right now 38.5 as I pulled up before, but it's definitely a higher over.
And I
Over
think
under.
that was only because did the game go to overtime last year? Am I
Uh,
misremembering that?
That I can't remember off the top of my head. I think there was one year the over under I think was like 13 and a half and the under hit. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was the
yeah,
COVID year at West Point actually.
Last year, 17-11, Army as a winner, and it did not go to overtime.
so it's usually always in the 20s. This is 10
Yeah,
points higher. I know the offenses have been outstanding this year. Army put up what 32 points against Tulane last week.
hmm
Navy has had some absolute ship pumpings of teams. The Eastern Carolina game rings a bell,
yeah,
where I like the Eastern Carolina wide receiver shooting the jump shot in the Navy D-backs
yeah.
face down like
Down
four
like
or
what
five
17?
scores.
Yeah, 4 5 scores. Yeah,
Yeah.
with like how many seconds left in the game?
Yep.
Yep.
But these teams know each other too well. There's too much tape out there. They've been running the same playbook for years. Rivalry game, too many points. This will be Army Navy as usual. I'm going with under 38.
All right, before we get to a pick from Jefferito, give us a little bit of insight into what this game is like from a Navy perspective, how you prepare for it, and is there anything different if you enter as a 6.5 point underdog as a 6.5 point favorite or larger, which I imagine you saw in your time at Navy?
Yeah, so I would say this is going to be your quintessential rivalry games where the spreads, the points, the rankings, the records mean absolutely nothing. Um, we had some very successful games when I was there against Army, winning all four of them. That said, regardless of the records going in there, beating the other team could potentially make or break the season. So right now, a lot of hype around Army. There was a lot of talk about them making the playoffs. They're one loss Notre Dame, and credit to Notre Dame. Outside the NIU loss, they have absolutely annihilated teams, statistically speaking. But this game is going to be huge. I love the fact that Navy is the underdog. I think that's just really good for Navy's psyche. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for it. Army, credit to them. They won the AAC conference over Tulane at home, so that was a big win for them. But Navy's got 2 weeks being rested, and 2 weeks to prepare to go into the game. But this is one of those games you spend your entire year preparing for this game. The Go Navy beat Armies are a daily occurrence at the school. So truthfully, just from a student body perspective, as a player fan base, this is the big game.
So you were there from 2006 through 2009, 10, and so that's part of the 14 in a row that Navy beat Army.
Yep,
Um,
correct.
things have changed clearly because Navy's doesn't have the ranking, the number next to their name, though. I guess it didn't get Army too far, and some might say they got jobbed as the only one-loss team not to make it, and that only
Mhm.
loss was to a top five team. Do you think that so? Perfectly great, understandable that Navy got extra time to prepare for this. Army isn't usually having to play a game in between. How much of an advantage do you think that gives in terms of the game plan for Navy? Do you think that tips the scales?
I do think it definitely tips the scales. If for no other reason, it's more time to watch film. Yeah, you look at Army's quarterback has had a breakout year, Bryson Daly. He set the AAC record in touchdowns, which would explain why Monken kept him in against Notre Dame's third string defense to ramp that up. But it's more time to prepare. But being that said, even with Army's 1 week to, prepare for this one, you've essentially been preparing mentally all year. I like the fact that Navy got to rest a little bit. Our quarterback, like Horvath, also was battling some injuries, later in the season. So I think that bodes well for us. So,
Okay, so
So in
now
terms of Jeff, in terms of preparing, like, are you guys watching film intermittently up ahead, or just like keeping tabs, or is the
yeah.
scout team
So,
running similar? I mean, the
yeah.
scout team's got to be running similar offenses, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, big thing that they'll do, actually, kind of a unique thing that Navy does in preparation for Army Week. And historically, the game was the week after. Sorry, they've moved it. So now, yeah, they've moved it back 1 week. So that kind of changed it a little bit as far as preparation. But one of the things they do is we have gold helmets that obviously our practice helmets, same as gold helmet, or the game helmets, but they put the black stripe down the center to reminisce Army's, to replicate, excuse me, Army's traditional gold and black stripe helmet. But when you have an off week like that, it's really no different as far as preparation goes, other than the hype behind the game or coming to the game. Is practice schedule can be a little bit reduced. You might have a day or two off during the week that you might normally not, just so guys can get healthy, get in the weight room. But you're still going to practice, you're still studying film, and the scout team is running off Army's offense and defensive schemes.
I
all
will
right.
say the Navy uniforms for this game I am much more particular to than the Army ones.
Yeah, on the uniforms, I give credit where it's due. Army has historically won in this arena. I'll say it was the uniforms. I would argue, without going into the military aspect of it, they got a lot more material to work with. But I'm a big fan of this year's combination. So very happy we came out strong with that
Are
one.
you saying they have a
Skull
little
and
more
crossbones are
space?
badass.
Yep.
Are you
What's that,
saying they have
Griff?
a little more space to design their uniforms
Yeah.
than underwater in a submarine?
Yeah, so we kind of we have historically kept it towards like the submarine community, the surface warfare community, or the Marine Corps as a whole. Whereas Army's done Special Forces, 10th Mountain Division, the 82nd Airborne, 101st Airborne, all that. So they have a little bit more to kind of operate with. So they've come a long way in the uniforms. When they first kind of did their off normal uniforms, I was there, and I think 1 year there was like the Army combat uniform type design, and we throttled them 34-3 or something, like 34-0 or something like that. So they've come a long way.
Reminds me of Rick Barnes when he had us wear black uniforms for a game against Duke in a slightly different scenario on the basketball court and not any wars involved. But I think we lost by 40. So it felt like we were in a war. So we've never worn black since. But so let's get a pick on the game, Jeff Lennar. Who are we going with?
Yep. So my pick right now, I love the Navy plus 6.5. I do think we're going to win outright. That's a pretty big point spread for a rivalry game. And yeah, I again biased obviously as a Navy fan, but we both had the loss to Notre Dame. Our loss happened after turning the ball over 6 times, which any analyst will tell you makes it statistically impossible to beat any team, let alone Notre Dame. We had our game against Rice, which was a loss, where the game was, I think, delayed. If I'm correct, like 9 hours due to lightning. I think that's definitely going to throw a team off, especially an away team. And the only loss, I really look at to compare Army and Navy is, Army had a fantastic game against Tulane in the championship. We got beat pretty bad by Tulane. But 6.5 rivalry game, two very talented teams. Navy's running a new offense this year, has been very successful, especially with our quarterback. So I love the 6.5 point spread.
I'll take the 6.5 as well. It's really sad we couldn't all do it as a triple best bet, but at Big East Ben just has to go with his number. His weird particular
you don't
number
want me
set
taking
it.
your side. You don't want me taking your side, so it's good.